Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. All right, so a little late making this video, but this was filmed probably a few months back in December. This was the new BMW X3 M50, and I happened to see one in the showroom at Flow BMW in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was there visiting at the time. I actually had shipped my X7 to North Carolina because I was that video where I had the vehicle for about 3 weeks. And I happened to pass by and notice something, which was the new, excuse me one second, which was the new X3. So haven't seen one. Obviously, we're a current owner of the previous generation X3 M40i. So I wanted to see what the new one had to offer. And also, since we're on the topic of X3, I wanted to mention something else. And this is something different that I never have experienced this lately. In a few years from a BMW dealership, I have the M3, have the X3 and the X7. You know, if you follow the channel long enough, you know I've had two X5s prior to the X7. So definitely not a stranger to BMW. My first BMW, I bought it in, let's see, it was a 2013. I bought a 335i. This is before I started the channel, of course. But I had an 09 335i, it was an E90. But yeah, the service with BMW, and I'm comparing it towards the other premium brands such as Lexus, Mercedes, Land Rover, Jaguar. I've always felt like the BMW service was kind of hit and miss. You know, I felt like it wasn't great, but I would say for the past year or so, my last visits at BMW, and not just speaking on Flow, I'm gonna use Flow BMW as an example. I'm gonna use BMW Fairfield as an example. I can't rate my recent experience at Concord. Haven't dealt with them yet in the past. May just do a visit to see what they're like. But our BMW dealerships turning around on customer service. So I'm gonna get to the X3 stuff. I'll show you the X3. I'll talk about my thoughts on it. You can see, I mean, the interior is all perfect. But that day, when I looked at the X3, it started pouring rain. All right, now I was not a customer at that BMW. They knew I was just browsing in that car. I think when I was shopping for my X7, they had an X7 that I was interested in buying from out of state. Long story short, the car was gone and sold before I, could do anything. But wasn't like a customer, wasn't a buying customer, didn't buy any parts, anything. But the manager, when it started pouring rain, we were leaving. The manager says, "Hey, if you want, you can pull your car into our service bay." So the service bay is closed. He says, "Pull your car in the service bay and load your family up and then dry so they don't get wet." Because we had, my mom with me, my wife was with me, and we had obviously he was at the time 1 year old turning 2, but our toddler is with us. So I was like, "You sure?" He's like, "Yeah, go ahead, load up in the dry." So I ran out there and, pouring rain real quick, got the X7. He opened the garage, the bay door. I brought my X7 in the bay and he let my family out there into the bay and allowed us to load up, and then he let me back out and he closed the door. To me, that's going above and beyond. To me, that's just a nice gesture. Regardless of how you guys feel about the cost of service and everything else, when you own a premium brand, these are the things that I like. These are things that you want to expect to get out of it. So yes, a shout out to Flow BMW in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That to me showed above and beyond. And it keeps me thinking in my head, owning a car like that in the future, when things like that happen, what kind of things would happen? Now my Fairfield BMW experience was similar. So when I bought the X7, I did try to find an X7 through them. Fortunately, when I got there, that vehicle also sold. But long story short, I was buying something from the parts department. I was buying a little BMW ride-on toy, and this was, I forgot what they call it, but a little blue toy that, you know, kids can have. I'll show that later in a different clip. But when I purchased it, it was in the parts department. I had my son with me, obviously the stroller, and the parts guy says, you know what, I'll carry it out to your car. You sure? Like, he's like, yeah, I'll carry it out to your car for you. And he carried it out to my car and put it in the trunk for me. I was really surprised about that. We weren't at the time going to buy anything. You know, I mentioned how sometimes you don't get that option. We weren't going to buy anything, but the salesperson was definitely not hesitant allowing us to view the car. I think it was an M2 or something, but I feel like they're willing to let us test drive if we wanted to go that route. And something years ago where my wife didn't get the opportunity to test drive M2, and I think from her, initially she just had a sour taste. She didn't want BMW even look at one. When I first tried to get her back to the X3, she didn't want to look at the X3. She was like, I don't want BMW. I don't like it. They gave her a bad feeling in the past. But I think that such has changed, and it's just based upon how she receives the service. So M2 could be something we could get in the future. I don't know yet. We've been talking about a few things. You know, obviously I like what we have now. I like the X7 for what it does. She likes her X3 for what it does. Obviously, as the family grows, or like physically as the kids get bigger, the needs change. So we don't have no idea what was coming 5 years from now. But who knows? M2 could be something in the future. It all depends. And it would be her car. Remember, she used to have a Mercedes C63 AMG Cabriolet. And that was all because Mercedes had really good customer service. They let her test drive the car, and she fell in love with it. And that's how you know, the rest was history, right? So, you know, going forward to this, we'll see how this plays out. But I'm really happy with the BMW dealership service. BMW Fairfield has been in Fairfield, California, has been really helpful with us. I haven't had any issues. They always, you know, greet us. I've come there pretty frequently sometimes when I'm just browsing the inventory, just looking at cars, and then the sales manager sees me. He, you know, greets me, asks me if I need anything, and it just, you know, I don't even know I don't know if he knows I have a YouTube channel or not, but I'm gonna give a shout out to them. And also, was in Cincinnati. Here's something I didn't notice. Yeah, I had this car for several months, and obviously, you know, in California, it doesn't rain. When I went to Ohio, I needed my rear wiper. Well, I didn't know the rear wiper was, the rubber blade wasn't even on. And of course, I need something now. So I drove to my closest BMW dealership because we tried to find it on Amazon. It took a few days. I said, I need something now. Who has them in stock? So I drove to the BMW store in Cincinnati, Ohio. And at first, that store was different. Trying to find the parts department in general was amazed. But first I got distracted by this orange BMW G80 M3 they had for sale. So it's probably someone bought that part by now, but I looked at that G80. I was like, wow, an amazing car. And then one of the sales people, she was talking to me. We were talking about cars for a bit. And anyway, I asked for this parts department. They escorted me to the parts. And like I said, you're probably like, well, where's the Beyond part? It wasn't so much of that. It kind of been Beyond, but to me, I asked for the rear wiper, got the rear wiper, and they could have just said, here you go, here's your wiper. He says, you want me to put it on for you? And he walked out to the parking lot and put it on the wiper, or put it on the, switched it and discarded the old one. I mean, it wasn't even like I had to beg them or anything. They voluntarily walked out and put my wiper on. And I just haven't had that lately. And it just kind of goes to show you that when you buy a premium brand, again, you get premium service. So shout out to BMW, the BMW store in Cincinnati, Ohio. I like that experience. And if I'm shopping, like I said, I may key into those stores. You know, if I'm looking for something in particular, or, you know, who knows, if I'm decided to place an order, it may allow me to, you know, find something theirs. You know, like I said, even when we bought the X3 from the BMW, it's BMW of San Luis Obispo, or people say SLO out here. I say San Luis Obispo. but ordered it from there. And due to my wife not being able to come there sign paperwork because of delays that were happening, they actually shipped the car to us on their coin. And then they had paid for a notary service to come meet us here to our house with the car, with the driver. And they all signed paperwork here in our living room. Then we were able to take delivery of the car. So amazing, amazing service. So like I said, BMW, they're changing a little bit. I feel like they're coming up, and I think it's competing, even Jaguar, Land Rover. When I had my Land Rover, Range Rover, I was probably kind of topic a little bit more, but they had really good service there. And I feel like a lot of brands, they're noticing that when you have the brands of like Hyundai, Kia, Ford, everybody's kind of adding the same features. What's going to set them apart now? Before it was like you bought a luxury car for luxury features, but now when other brands, common brands, are adding the same features for like half the cost, and if you don't know, if you're just buying BMW for the features, then you're kind of going to be missing out. But if you're buying it for the drive, that's a different story. But if you want something to lure you in, like what is it about these cars that can drive you in? You have to understand, paying a high price, they have to step it up with the service. They have to. And this is the only thing you can do, because when you go to Hyundai, you're going to expect Hyundai service. You're not going to get a brand new loaner car to drive. Every person is going to get that for, the service. So that's something else that I think that's coming a long way too. Loaner cars are coming back. I think with the inventory of cars coming back, loaner cars are coming more frequent, able to schedule those and get those vehicles out. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the X3 clip here. It was just, if you've seen it, I'm sure you've seen it, but I just kind of thought to show the interior and things like that. Like to get into the seat of one, just drive it, compare it to the M40i. Probably going to be a while because I got to find one that's, that's not sold and a dealer that allow me to drive it. But yeah, thanks for watching.